Hi, my name is Marina. I am a second-year student in Julia Salt's lab, and today I'll be presenting Somebody's Watching Me, exploring the effects of social information use and production. The social environment is composed of conspecifics that communicate information with each other through the exchange of signals. However, communication isn't restricted to just pairwise interactions. Social behaviors such as aggression, courtship, and mating often occur within a larger social context than just the two individuals that are engaged in an interaction. Social information that's produced as a result of two interacting individuals is also available to any other individual within the range of signal transmission. These behaviors that we typically study in the context of dyadic interactions can be viewed instead as part of a communication network, one that's composed of signalers, receivers, and eavesdroppers. These third-party individuals may be able to detect and intercept signals from the social interactions of others that are relevant to them, and also influence the interactions of others due to their presence. However, we know remarkably little about the different types of signals that eavesdroppers are able to extract information from, and how they use the information from those signals to guide their subsequent decisions about how to interact with others. Information gained by eavesdropping could include the quality of a prospective mate, by observing the courtship interactions of two other individuals, or the information conveyed could be about the fighting ability of a future opponent. Take, for example, these kangaroos. These two guys getting into an aggressive encounter are potential eavesdroppers sitting in the back soaking it all up. This example clearly shows one of the possible benefits of eavesdropping. Large amounts of information can be extracted without much risk or effort on the part of the eavesdropper. Thus, eavesdroppers may be able to benefit from watching and extracting information from the social interactions of other conspecifics. The interacting pair might also alter their signaling behavior due to the presence of the eavesdropper in a phenomenon deemed the audience effect. So sticking with our kangaroo example here, if these females gather around to observe the fight, these males might choose to escalate their fighting behavior in response. Audience effects may be sensitive to the genetic makeup or the genotype of the social eavesdroppers, which can influence the behaviors of others through indirect genetic effects. Through this process, an audience can exert selective pressure on the evolution of communication signals, but this is yet to be shown empirically. Therefore, eavesdroppers or audience members are simultaneously influencing the interactions of others through the audience effect, as well as being influenced by the signals that they intercept through eavesdropping. Importantly, these two phenomena are not isolated events, and they shouldn't be studied irrespective of one another as they often are. As you see, instead, together they generate this feedback loop where the behaviors and genetics of one individual can influence the behaviors of another. I'm proposing a series of behavioral experiments that will provide some of the first empirical testing of the union of these two phenomena under the framework of social information use. Surprisingly, social information use has rarely been applied to how animals acquire and use information about other individuals and how to navigate their social environment. Rather, this framework has often been used to explain how animals navigate their physical environment, like deciding where to forage or for predator avoidance. But uniting both of these interactions and summing them up as the production and use of socially produced information can allow us to become better informed about how behaviors are expressed and evolve. The production of social information may be altered depending on the traits of the eavesdroppers, and different eavesdroppers might differ in how they use social information. Incorporating the complexities of how social information is produced and used by eavesdroppers of different genotypes and different sexes is critical for identifying how communication networks and social information use itself can evolve. So this brings me to my research questions. How does the present sex and genotype of an eavesdropper influence the production of social signals? And how do individuals use social information to make decisions on how to navigate their social environment? Aggressive contests are well studied in a dyadic context. However, we know less about the influence of the social environment on aggression. Recent modeling extensions of game theory to include eavesdropping have given us predictions about changes in aggressive contests that we're able to test empirically. So the experiment I'm going to be sharing with you all today is one that I've designed to specifically test if and how signals from aggressive interactions can be used as a form of social information. So now I'll introduce my study system, Drosophila melanogaster. There's a lot of reasons why they're going to be a great study system to answer my questions. And the first is that fruit flies form social groups on their food sources that might be stable over a number of days, and many social interactions occur on these food sources in the presence of observing conspecifics. For example, the aggressive behaviors shown by this short video clip of males have recently been well characterized, making them great for looking at aggression. And in addition, it's already been shown that Drosophila melanogaster possess the cognitive capabilities for social information use. And before I jump into my experimental protocol, I would like to take a quick break to shout out my 5 amazing undergrad students who've assisted me with data collection and conducting preliminary trials. They've already been a really valuable part of my research journey, and they deserve to be recognized. So thank you, undergrads. So to answer these questions about how aggressive contests are used as a form of social information, I've designed an experiment that allowed an eavesdropper to observe an aggressive interaction, and then the eavesdropper was able to interact with those 2 dueling individuals to see how they used that information to guide their subsequent decisions. So pictured is the arena that I designed to conduct my experiments. The pipette tip on top is where 1 eavesdropper fly was housed, while 2 male demonstrator flies were placed inside of the petri dish arena. The eavesdropper fly and the pipette tip was separated from the other 2 flies only by a mesh layer, allowing them to better smell and hear what was taking place in the arena. Here's a simplified cartoon mock-up of the arena. The large circle represents the petri dish, the smaller circle represents the pipette tip. So for my experimental protocol, I dusted 2 male demonstrator flies so that they were either orange or yellow and placed them into the arena, and then I placed 1 eavesdropper fly into the pipette tip. I gave them a few minutes to acclimate to their new environment, and then for 30 minutes, I allowed the demonstrator males to fight while recording 5 different aggressive behaviors. And this all happened under the watchful gaze of the eavesdropper. After this observation period, I was able to easily remove the pipette tip on top and introduce the eavesdropper fly into the arena with the 2 demonstrating males. Then I recorded the eavesdropper's interactions with the 2 males for another 30 minutes. So I conducted 4 different experimental treatments. I had both a female and male eavesdropper treatment, and I used 3 different genotypes of the eavesdropper flies. I also conducted trials where there was no eavesdropper present, and trials where the male and female eavesdropper flies were placed into the arena with the demonstrator males with no previous social information. I conducted these last 2 treatments to provide a baseline for how the demonstrator males would behave with no audience and how the eavesdropper flies would behave with no social information. So I am still in the beginning phases of data analysis for this project, but I can present results that answer my research question about social information production. So I'll just be talking about the first half of my experiment. So for my hypotheses, theory predicts an increase in aggression from the 2 demonstrator males, and thus an increase in social information production for both the male and female eavesdropper treatment. I mentioned earlier that there have been extensions of the game theory to include eavesdropping, and those models have shown that the value of a victory is increased when there's another male eavesdropper present. As a result, male eavesdroppers should promote aggression. Females might represent a valuable resource for the winner, which means that there would be, when a female is present, selective advantages to elevated aggression during fights. I also expect to see genotypic differences in how individuals affect social information production. So here's a quick breakdown of my numbers. I conducted a total of 164 trials, and then I constructed 0 inflated generalized linear mixed models to explain the variation in aggression that I saw from my 2 demonstrator males. So our models showed that there were significant differences in total aggression depending on if there was a male, female, or no eavesdropper present. So shown as a box plot, average total aggression from the demonstrator males is on the y-axis, and on the x-axis we have my 3 different treatments: female, male, or no eavesdropper. The black line represents the median here, and the red dot is the mean. So remarkably, we saw the least aggression actually from the 2 demonstrator males when there was another male eavesdropping. However, we also saw similar levels of aggression in both the female and no eavesdropper treatment. Our model also revealed that the genotype of the eavesdropping fly significantly influenced the differences that we saw in aggressive behavior from the 2 demonstrator males. So the graph shown is an interaction plot with the sex of the eavesdropper fly on the x-axis, and on the y-axis we again see demonstrator male aggression. So this plot supports the findings that I just mentioned. We see this sexual dimorphism and the effect on demonstrator males' behavior, where female eavesdroppers of all genotypes are consistently eliciting the most aggression. However, as you see, some genotypes consistently elicited higher overall aggression than others. So to compare our findings so far with our hypotheses, the genotype of the audience did significantly affect differences in signaling behaviors. We did see an increase in aggression for female eavesdroppers relative to the male eavesdropper treatment. And unexpectedly, the male eavesdropper treatment actually caused a decrease in aggressive signaling behaviors. This finding may indicate that while the male eavesdropper might be benefiting from the information gained by watching an aggressive encounter, these behaviors are in some way costly to the signaler when a male audience is present. The benefit of my experimental design, though, is that I'll be able to test this in the data analysis for the second half of my experiment. By comparing differences in initial aggression towards the winner and loser in my male eavesdropper treatment versus my treatment where the male eavesdropper wasn't allowed to collect social information, I'll be able to assess if it's costly to be overly aggressive when another male is present. So in conclusion, my big takeaway from my experiment so far is that we see both sex and genotypic differences influence the production of social information. Thus, it's likely that eavesdroppers have shaped the evolution of animal communication and social information use. Failure to consider the social environment of communication ignores a major source of selection and will restrict our understanding of social information use in production. So to continue to study the evolution of signals and tactics, as well as form relevant behavior models, we must explicitly consider the costs and benefits of the social environment, as well as the genotypic variation within it. Thank you for your time. I'd be happy to take any questions.